Welcome to the Phoenix Prosperity Podcast, where wealth meets legacy. Join your host, Tim Fergestad, as we explore the journeys of Phoenix's finest to success and beyond.
Hello, this is Tim Fergestad. Thank you for joining us. I'm very pleased to have Oleg Bortman with me here today. Oleg was born in the Ukraine, moved to the United States decades ago, seeking the American dream, following a career in pharmaceutical sales. Oleg knew his true passion was real estate. He bought his first investment property in 1999, expanded his portfolio from New Jersey to Nevada and then on to Arizona, quickly seeing his return on investments. When Oleg moved out west, he realized he didn't want to be just an investor. He wanted to give other people the same opportunities he had. He's currently running the Brokerey. And welcome to the show, Oleg.
Tim, thank you so much for having me.
There's a lot we glossed over there. You, like myself, left sort of the biomedical field to branch out into entrepreneurship, which has some risks, right? There's probably some fear there and leaving that safe environment for that. Can you speak a little bit to how that got started?
Yeah, so in the late 90s, I read a book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, for anyone who's in real estate. I think that's like the opening book for every realtor. And at that time, I was just under 30 years old. And it was a great book. I was working at Abbott Labs at that time as a sales manager, living in New Jersey. And every time I would, make a bonus or make some money, it seems like no matter how much I made, I spent more than I made, which is kind of like the rat race, the typical corporation play. They give you incredible benefits, company car, health benefits, 401k, and every year they give you 3, 4, 5% raise, whatever you think that you're worth. And so I started reading Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and I was like, oh, that's a really cool concept. Not only are you working for your money, but you can have your money work for you simultaneously.
Right. Instead of working for somebody else's dream.
That's right. Yes, I can fulfill my own, right?
Right.
But, as a Jewish immigrant coming over from the Soviet Union, a communist country, our parents were always like, hey, my son's going to be a doctor or a lawyer. So that's why I went down the science path.
Okay.
They didn't want to disappoint. And after graduating with a degree in biology and working in the lab for a couple of years, my parents kept asking, when are you going to become a doctor? So I was like, well, Mom, give me one more chance. Let me try sales for a year. And, I got into pharmaceutical sales in 1999 and have not looked back ever since. It's been the best move I've ever done, getting into sales. And then what I love about real estate versus working for a big corporation is it's an uncapped business. And then I started realizing I can start creating generational wealth. So besides making money, I could start creating a legacy for myself and my family. And it's one of those businesses, as you know, as an entrepreneur, the more you put into it, the more you get back out. And it's not a 1-to-1 ratio, it's an exponential ratio. So you can put one in, you get 10x out, 100x out, depends on the risk tolerance you have. And so I got my license out here in 2009.
In Phoenix?
In Phoenix, Arizona. Yes.
Okay.
So I before then, between 1999 and 2009, I was buying properties in Vegas and accumulating some passive income. And in 2009 or 7, the market crashed. I said, well, let me get my license in 2009. Everybody looked at me like I had 3 heads. They're like, are you sure you want to get in real estate? Nothing's moving. Everything's like sold for free, pennies on the dollars. Everything crashed. It was awful.
I was like, well, if I when you want to get into real estate, everything's on sale.
Exactly. So if I can make it in 2009, I can make it in any environment. Because even back then, like you couldn't get a loan, you couldn't get lending. So it was a very, very, very tough environment. Rates, we talk about rates nowadays. When I bought my first house in New Jersey in 1997, rates were 8% and I was ecstatic. Because my parents in the late 80s had a rate of 17%. So, the rates don't really impact me or a long-term investor. The rate shouldn't impact you today because what you're doing is accruing wealth for tomorrow.
Right. Well, you talked briefly about getting some passive income with some properties in Nevada. Can you expand on that for our listeners, please?
Yeah, absolutely. So it was early 2000, around 2003. the big keywords back then was cash flow, cash flow, cash flow. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to do some cash flow. So I would get a bonus for my company once a quarter. And then back then I can pick up condos for 60, 70,000 in Las Vegas. And the numbers actually penciled out when I was still living in Jersey, but like a 1 bedroom or 2 bedroom condo cost me 150 or 180,000. And with property tax and everything, I was always underwater. In Vegas, you could buy it for 60 grand. Rates were like 5%. So your mortgage was like $350 on a $70,000 investment. HOA was still $100, and then you would rent them out for $850. So I was cash flow, and I was making a couple $100 I would say, yeah, about $200 per property on a $60,000 investment. So the cap rate was insane. I was like, oh, this is cool. But $200 didn't really impact it didn't change my life at that point.
$200 a month, yeah, is nice, but it's alone, it's not earth shattering.
Correct. Yeah, like it didn't. I couldn't change my lifestyle, but you start accumulating, and someone's paying off your mortgage at the same time, and then equity gets bigger and bigger. Right. So in 2003, I bought my first investment property in Vegas. I did make some acquisitions earlier than that. And then every time I get a bonus every 6 months, I would just go out and buy another one. The only challenge I had was that $60,000 condo 6 months later was now I had to spend 70 or 75,000 to buy, because Vegas and Phoenix, with both markets that were started picking up a lot of external investors out. Right. So then the 75 cost me 95 and 95 cost me 110. But in a matter of 2 years, I picked up about 6 properties.
Okay. And some of those early ones probably appreciated pretty well at that point. Correct,
because the last one that I bought for 110 was one that I paid for 2 years ago for 60,000. So they appreciated double, which was amazing back then. I mean, I'm a guy working for a pharmaceutical company, living a good life, and then I was like, yeah, but I just made like 60 grand in 2 years doing nothing.
Right.
I'm like, this is amazing.
Yeah, hooked.
Yes. How do I do this more? And then how do I tell other people about it? So that's how my mindset kind of shifted.
Yep. Okay. Excellent. Same with me. I mean, I'm a big fan of real estate. I left the biomedical field and started doing investments and fell in love with real estate, started realizing it's the greatest wealth building vehicle on earth, and got some single family rentals, got some in different markets or different states, and did a variety of things, flipping them up, wholesaling them, and so forth. But I was not thrilled about managing them, being a landlord and all that stuff. So I was using third-party property managers and stuff, which have their own challenges, and yes. Dealing with one right now. Right before this podcast, I was dealing with one in Indianapolis. But some people love it. Some people like the more passive strategies. I've done both, and I kind of offer sort of the passive now is kind of what I do through the apartment syndications, because I didn't even know that we could buy the big commercial buildings, right? And I thought we were just stuck like a lot of the home shows, right? They show people flipping homes and stuff, but you don't see any shows about people flipping apartment communities or anything, but you can. So that's kind of where I pivoted to and started is my focus now.
That's awesome. Which I want to learn more about. I think I love the multifamily apartment complex is such a great. The more doors you can own, it's a great concept.
Right. There's a lot of advantages of scale and having everything in one place and so forth.
Sure.
Tell us a little bit more about your business right now. Maybe a snapshot of what you do, what the Brokerey does, et cetera.
Sure. So my partner and I, Tucker Blaylock, he's a native from Arcadia area here in Arizona. We started a team back in 2013 called The Suits. We used to just focus in the Biltmore area. Okay. And then we bought our broker out in 2017 and rebranded the whole company to the Brokerey. And fast forward 7 years later, well, let me take a step back. So 7 years ago when we bought her out, the company sold about $35 million across the valley as a brokerage. And 7 years later, I'll fast forward, we now have 5 offices. We have over 90 realtors. And this year we're going to sell just under $500 million in sales.
Nice. So that's an order of magnitude, more than an order of magnitude more. Very good.
So it's something, we're passionate about growth and development. We're passionate about developing our agents. on how to become top producers, how to sell 50, 60, 80 million dollars a year, $100 million a year. And at the same time, we also want to have our clients that want to be investors understand how to create generational wealth. So we have a two-front approach. Not only are our agents our clients, but also people that want to, buy homes, sell homes, invest in homes as well.
Right. Okay. Excellent. And what hats do you wear in that process currently? I'm sure you've worn them all.
Yes. You as an entrepreneur, first and foremost, I'm a husband, a dad of two amazing kids. And then every C letter you can carry: CEO, COO, co-founder, janitor, marketer, advertiser. I think most importantly is a coach. I would say that's the one that I'm most proud about, is to coach other people up on how to become financially free in America. We still live in America. It's still the American dream for definitely the immigrants that come over. We come out here for the American dream. There's still a lot of Americans that were born here that want to fulfill their dream. And sometimes it's as simple as home ownership. And you have to make the right decisions early right out of high school, right out of college. You don't want to accrue debt. You want to be able to save enough money just to put enough down, and then you can start earning it. So I think the coach is the biggest title that I carry.
I love it. I'm very similar. Helping other people I find the most rewarding as well.
So I'm blessed, man. I have a unique model. Every day is my birthday. So if people ask, I'm 18,285 days old today.
Nice.
The earth gets older every day, and so do we. So every day I wake up, it's a blessing. It's a gift from the man upstairs. And so I want to pass on the wisdom and experience he shared with me with others.
Okay. Excellent. I like that idea, right? That it's a new day, live it. What's that song? There's a Toby Keith song, Clint Eastwood inspired. Don't let the old man in, I think is what it is. But there's a line in there that says, it's something, how would you live today if you didn't know your birth date or something like that? If you didn't know your age, right? It was just, forget your age. What do you want to do today? Go seize the day type of mentality, which I quite like.
100%. It's so that's kind of the motto we live at home. Let's go celebrate, work hard, and celebrate a night every day.
Okay, excellent. So what's sort of the Brokerey's niche or areas of expertise, could you say?
It's interesting. So we created a concept or our focus is really called Relentlessly Local. So how we started off, Tucker and I used to just run around the Biltmore. So we became the Biltmore experts.
Okay.
And what we realized is every market or sub-market in a valley should have their own experts. So we're a boutique firm. We're one of the top luxury boutique firms left. Independents out there. Recently, one of our big competitors, North & Co, got bought up by Compass, and so did Launch, leaving very few independents. And what we do is we now find agents in every sub-market that's an expert in that sub-market, and then we bring them into our culture on how to take over that market. So we have agents that live in East Valley. So we have agents that live in Chandler, Nocatee, and Queen Creek, and Mesa.
Right.
Gilbert. We have agents that live in Arrowhead and Peoria. We have agents in North Scottsdale. So we find the agent that understands the importance of being an expert in that sub-market. We bring them under the Brokerey name and brand, and then we help them expand their brand and their knowledge into that market. So we service the whole valley. Okay.
Excellent. And if there's other agents who are interested in that, what do they need to do to get to the Brokerey level of expertise to be worthy of being courted into the group?
Yeah, so our minimum threshold here at the Brokerey is $5 million in production on an annual basis. Okay. So if you are brand new, we do once in a while have a mentor-mentee program, like we talk about coaching. So we'll have an experienced agent that does 10, 15, $20 million a year is looking for a mentee. So somebody that they can, teach the business. But to be an individual standalone agent, you have to sell at least $5 million. If you have a team, you have to sell at least $20 million of the team to come over as well. What's great about us here, we have an in-house graphic designer. We have an in-house director of operations that helps kind of manage and push your team forward and in your ability, and then everything's done in-house for you.
Okay, excellent. So it sounds like a lot of mentoring there as well, which is great. I believe you also have impact locally just amongst entrepreneurs in general. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, so I have two kids, 11 and Lily will be soon 12 at the end of this month. My son is 13, about 18 months apart. And about 12, 13
So are you
years
still
ago,
cool? Are you still fun to hang out with?
if you ask my daughter, I'm not sure. My son is 13. How crazy it is. He got an incredible opportunity. For those that follow soccer, he got an offer from PSG Football Academy in France
Oh boy.
at 13 years old. So he got a 2-year offer. We just dropped him off actually September 1st in France at a boarding school for the PSG Football Academy.
Whoa. Wow.
So he's following his dream. I was just out there last week. I visited him. He had a big tournament in town. So for him, I'm still cool because I played soccer, so he still looks up to me once in a while. And I still give him the money to be out there, I guess.
Right. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
To me, he's super cool, and my daughter's super cool. But I don't know how much cooler I'll be with my daughter. My son still thinks of coolness for me.
Yeah,
so thank you for asking.
Well, I have my daughter just turned 15, and I'm embarrassing now.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm annoying and
At what age did that happen? So you can warn me.
Yeah, it was about 13.
Okay. I can definitely, as I said, my daughter's about to be 12, so like sometimes she's like, "Dad, you're embarrassing me." I'm like, so that's why I'm like getting on that.
Well, you start to enjoy it.
Oh man, that's awesome to know.
Okay, sorry, but you're talking about local Phoenix impact, the things you're working on.
Yes. So with my kids, I wanted to, years ago, I did like I believe I don't know how much days I have left on this planet, right? I don't have a day left or 50 years left. I have no idea. So I wanted to kind of create this memoir about my journey, because everybody has a story. And so I started writing this book. Got a ghostwriter who's going to write this book. About 12 pages in, 6 months later, I'm like, yeah, this is not happening. It didn't get too far. Well, fast forward 12 years later, my wife, I kept telling her about this. I want to write this book. She's like, well, stop telling me what you're going to do and just do it.
Nice.
So I decided to put in my thoughts together, and I did an anthology. So it made it a little bit easier. I wrote the kind of concept of the book, and then I got 12 other people that have impacted my life one way or another. Okay. Dear friends of mine that are super amazing entrepreneurs. One super amazing woman. She's a local business entrepreneur. If anybody's been to like a Postino's, Windsor Upward Projects is the name of the company. She has some partners as well. I've known her for almost 15 years now. She wrote a chapter in my book talking about her success and the one thing that made her get to where she's at. I've had so I put a book together, some lenders in town, CEOs of pharmaceutical companies. So anybody outside of the kind of technically corporate world, but they've created it from where they started. Lauren Bailey being one of them, one of the most prominent names that people would kind of go to or understand. And the concept of the book is to pay it forward, right? It's because traditionally it's, hey, you go to high school, you go to college, you go get your PhD, you get your MD, your JD, whatever degrees. And this is not many of us, no one's in here is technically a lawyer or a doctor per se, but just a true entrepreneur, and they're sharing their success stories with other entrepreneurs out there.
Okay, excellent. That's great. So let's talk a little bit more about investing.
Yes.
Okay. So we're both big fans. We're big fans of real estate. Sounds like things are going well for you at the Brokerey. How about your own sort of investing interests? You diversified. A lot of people in like real estate, they go heavy into real estate.
Yes.
Which makes sense because you know it, right, and you understand it. And I know stock guys who they go heavy into stocks because that's what they know.
Sure.
Can you speak a little bit to your sort of prosperity goals and maybe legacy plans and how you're using maybe real estate for that?
Yeah, absolutely. So because I started corporate world, I had a 401k, early in my career. So I always had a 401k running, so I still put money aside on that on an annual basis. But the majority is still real estate based. So my wife and I own roughly just under 10 real estate properties, some commercial, because most of our offices for the brokerage we actually own. We don't we only rent one or two of them. The majority of them we own. And then many residential places as well. So we kind of buy in upcoming areas or areas that are kind of, I would say, supported. Like even when the market shifts, they don't shift as much. So we own several properties near the Camelback corridor, as well.
Great area.
Yeah. So and how it kind of for me how it started is when I started buying those condos here in Phoenix, even after the crash. My concept was once my kids are ready to go to college, if I bought a condo for 100 grand at that point, and let's say even appreciated over 18 years, to 200,000, I could always sell one and pay for my kids' college tuition. But as I got older and started investing more and more, I realized I'm not going to need that money to sell one, because as I'm growing my portfolio, I'm making more money. So I'll be able to pay for the schooling as a whole. And now my thing is just to accrue as much real estate as I can. So now I can pass it down to my kids, and my kids can pass it down to their kids, and just keep accruing wealth. What's so amazing about real estate versus any other kind of investment tool, like if you were to buy $100,000 worth of stock and the stock goes up 10% or 100%, it goes on 100% of what you put in. What's cool about real estate, if you acquire a property, say for 500,000, and you got to put 10% down, so 50,000, you put $50,000. If the property doubles or it's worth 100% more, it's not worth 100% more of my 50,000 that I put in.
Right.
It actually doubles off the value of the acquisition, which is really incredible. So if it went from 500,000 to $1 million, I now made 500 grand on my $50,000 investment.
Right. Power of leverage.
It's absolutely unbelievable. And that's why I love it so much.
Right. How about growth phase versus retention phase? With different age stations. We talked about cash flow originally and passive income versus. We do different things, right? Depends. We're doing a series of townhome build-to-rent developments here in Phoenix. When you're developing, there's no cash flow, right? There's no passive income, right? There's nobody paying rent, right? So it depends on each person's individual goals and where they're going. Do you have sort of a legacy plan or future for that? And then we can also talk about 1031s and other ways to parlay good investments in real estate moving forward.
Yeah, so a couple things. A great question. One thing that's got really sexy and hot in the last, I'd say, 4 or 5 years is the cost segregation studies. I'm sure you're very familiar with them yourself, especially if you're buying big apartment complexes. Typically in residential, you're not well versed on them as much. But so this year I've incorporated 2 or 3 of my rentals that I've had for quite a while now into a cost seg study this year, which is great for us because we're still selling a lot of real estate. My business partner and I, and our income is very strong. So the cost seg study, there's pros and cons. Obviously, the pro is that I can take off a lot of the income of everything I'm making
as a real estate professional and status in the eyes of the IRS. Yes,
absolutely. And the challenge to that, then you lower your basis of selling it, right? So if I bought a property for $1 million and I cost segged it all out, then the basis is 0, which then gives us another tool, the 1031 exchange, which I've utilized the last couple of years a couple times and told other clients about it. So my goal is not to ever sell a property without rolling all the profits into the next, because as I still transact on a daily basis for myself and my clients, then that kind of income pays for my lifestyle. And then my real estate holdings is more of a Social Security leverage, right? Or pension plan. People like you and myself, we don't have Social Security, and I don't think I'm going to see. I might put $2 to $5 million into it and maybe get $1,000 a month on the back end out of it. So
Right.
that's not going to help. So my plan is, as I'm selling real estate today and then acquiring, holding a lot of it, then that's going to be my pension plan and my Social Security. And then when I pass away, I just can roll those units over to my kids and grandkids.
Okay. For our listeners who may not know what a cost segregation is, do you want to quickly talk a little bit about how it's accelerated depreciation and with bonus depreciation phasing out for now,
Yeah.
how that works for people,
Yeah,
why
I'll
they
talk
would
a
do
little
that,
bit.
and why you don't really see it in residential normally.
Yeah, so I'll talk about it a little bit because I'm not an expert on it, and you may have more experience on it than I do myself. So please, jump in and correct me at any time. Like, there's an outside companies that do cost segregation studies, and what it happens is you can actually, especially in commercial world, you can write off every piece of the inside of the building. Like, you can wear and tear on the floors and the walls and the TVs, and so. And how you can, I know even a couple of years ago, you can write off almost 100%. So typically on residential, it's when you buy and depreciate, it's over 39 and a half years, you depreciate the value of the property you hold, not the land. In commercial, it was always over 27 and a half years. So if you acquire something that's worth $1 million over 27 years, you can only write off roughly $30,000 a year. Cost segregation studies shrinks that time up. So in the first 1 or 2 years, you can write off almost 40-60% of that $1 million versus 30,000 over 30 years. You can write off maybe 400,000 the first year, and then 10 or maybe 30, 40, 50,000 every year afterwards. So it piles up on a quicker time to depreciate your value. So as a young professional like yourself and myself, when you're still making prime money, so if you're making $1 million a year now, versus when I'm 65 and I'm retired and I'm just pulling money out of my funds and I'm making 50,000, my taxable income is gonna be a lot lower there than it is now. With the cost segregation study, I'm taking off a lot of the depreciation in a shorter window of time immediately now versus over 30 years.
Right. So in summary, you're getting losses to offset your current income, so you don't have to pay as much tax on your current income.
Correct.
Yeah, and a 1031 exchange. Do you want to explain real quick to listeners what the 1031 exchange allows?
Yeah, so the 1031 exchange is another incredible tool that you can literally pay zero money on all the gains. So let's say you bought a property 10 years ago for 300,000 and now it's worth 600,000. It can't be a primary residence. It has to be an investment property. So it's gonna be like exchange. So I bought a condo for 300, now it's worth 600,000. I have the $300,000 worth of equity on the back end. Plus, I have a lot of depreciation. So let's say my base cost is not 300, it's only 100,000 now. Typically, that 500,000 between 100 and 600 grand, I have to pay taxes at long-term gains, even at 20%. 20% on 500,000 is 100 grand. If I do a 1031 exchange, I can now sell that condo and then go into, let's say, multifamily. I can buy 2 units or 4 units, but I have to. If I roll over that whole 600,000, I pay 0 taxes. So instead of paying taxes on the 500 grand, I pay 0 taxes. So I take the 600 grand. Now, instead of buying 1 unit, I own 2 or 3. I have enough as down payment and get a loan. And now I own multiple doors. And I don't ever pay taxes until I stop doing a 1031 exchange. And my goal for my wife and I, and as a family, is to always keep rolling the real estate leverage into more properties and more doors until at some point either my kids sell it, or if I have to sell it, I can sell it and pay taxes at that time.
Right. So the biggest obvious advantage is you defer your taxes and you get to use that money to buy more, and it snowballs quicker. But to your point, one of the slogans is defer, 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 die.
Yes. I like that one.
Is you basically you just keep deferring so you can grow your investments bigger, faster, but your tax burden is also growing with that, because each time you're doing an exchange. By the way, this is done through a qualified intermediary, right? You can't just do this yourself. There's people that have to oversee it to make sure you do it properly. But one of the exit plans, right, is just hold it in for the cash flow and keep living off of the money that it gives off, and then upon death, the basis resets. And so that's not that dying is the best plan per se,
Sure.
but for tax purposes, death and taxes, yeah, you can't not use them against each other.
That's right.
Right.
Those are the two guarantees in life, death and taxes.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. So that's great. So if people are new to this and they want to start getting into investing and maybe looking at buying investment properties here in Phoenix, what advice would you give them?
Find a real estate professional that's not only convincing you to do it, that actually has experience doing it for themselves. It's kind of like I talk to my agents when I've met agents many in my life that they rent a house and then they convince you to go buy a house, right? The two just don't align for me.
Right.
So like if I want to, if someone's asking me like, hey, oh, like, can you help me buy a 300 door apartment complex? I'm not the guy, but I know somebody that is the guy.
Right.
But so when you're looking for a realtor professional, ask them how many properties do they own, how often have they transacted, and even if it's single family home or condo, as long as they're investors, they probably have a network of people that can help them. So I always say go to a professional that has done it themselves and they're currently still doing it, because what they did 10 years ago is different than what's happening in today's market. So if you can reach out to Oleg at the Brokerey at any time. We have a ton of agents that specialize in just investments, and then we have traditional agents like myself that do traditional real estate buying, selling, and also investments as well.
Okay. I could keep talking to you about this geeking out on this stuff for a long time, but in the interest of moving this forward, there's a question I always like to ask people, is reflecting on your journey, right? What do you wish you knew about building wealth or success earlier in your career?
Yeah, so I'm not a regretter in life, but the only thing I would say is I wish I didn't sell a single property that I ever held.
I hear that one a lot. That's a common one amongst successful real estate investors, is because it's historically how you build wealth in real estate is over time. And
Correct.
everybody thinks, well, it's, you watch TV shows and people flip and stuff. That's a job. That's not investing, right? It's very transactional. And so,
Sure.
yeah, that's the only regret I hear from real estate investors, is I wish I wouldn't have sold anything.
Any of it, right? I wish I 1031 these even 20 years ago, because I would have another 7, 8, 9 properties behind me at this point.
Right.
That were all free and clear at this point, because time flies. Like the day is long and the years are short. 24 years later, if I had the other ones that I bought even 20 years ago in 03, they'd all be free and clear, and they'd be not cash flowing 200, it'd be cash flowing 1,000 or 1,200, because not only the value went up, but the rents went up.
Right.
So I'd be killing it even more.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Do you have any exciting plans or initiatives coming in the next 6, 12 months?
Yeah, so the Brokerey is always expanding. We just are opening up our 5th office, so we're looking for other awesome, incredible real estate professionals that take this as a full-time job. We're not hobbyists here. I published a book, as we mentioned, back in January. My goal is to get a volume 2, 3, 4 out. So every 1.5 to 2 years, find another 12 entrepreneurs that have incredible stories, because everybody has a story to share. So I'm, talking to people right now on how to, but everything's a job. So, running a brokerage is a job, being an investor is a job. And ultimately, since my son is in Europe playing soccer, I've had the aha that I want to buy a European soccer football academy. So, I want to be the new Ryan Reynolds, who bought Wrexham and now got a TV show. But I grew up playing soccer. I love the game, and very entrenched in it. Looking out there to see if anybody's also looking at the same ideas, and get a big investment group together and buy a football club in Europe.
Okay, that's great. I love it. That's a fun goal. That's a great one. Okay, very cool. So thank you, Oleg, for your time today. And if people would like to connect with you, what should they do? You mentioned Oleg at the Brokerey. Maybe you can be a little more specific.
Yes. So oleg@thebrokerey.com is my email. My cell phone number is 602-402-2296. Again, Oleg Bortman, 602-402-2296. As a realtor, my phone's always on. You can always call me at any time.
All right. That's what you want to hear too. And not being able to get a hold of your your team is no good.
No. And Tim, again, thank you so much. I'm honored to, you have this amazing podcast that you looked out and gave me an opportunity to jump on it with you.
All right. Thank you for being on here. Thank you everyone for watching and listening and joining us today. We appreciate Oleg for sharing your insights to success and impact here in Phoenix.
Inspired by our guests? Visit PhoenixProsperityPodcast.com/guest and join us on the show and share your success story with Tim. The spotlight awaits.